most cases, the regular way to bind off stitches works just fine. But if you want to add a special touch to the open edges of your project, you need to use a special way of closing stitches. I-cord bind off is one of those ways. Even though it looks quite fancy, it's not really hard to do. And in this video, I'll show you 2 ways to make this type of bind off. Let's start with way number 1. We can probably call it classic way because this is the way explained in many books, blog posts, and video tutorials, and here's how it works. At the beginning of the row, cast on 3 stitches using knit on, cast on. So you make a stitch, place it back on the left needle, then you knit another one, place it back, and one more time, stitch number 3. Here we go. Now we knit 2 stitches separately. Knit one and knit another one. And then we make a decrease. So we decrease one of the stitches of the work, so binding it off basically. And the decrease happens like this. Slip 1 stitch knitwise. So you insert the tip of the right needle from left to right as if you are knitting it. Then knit 1 stitch and pass the slipped one over the knit stitch like this. And here we go, we're back to 3 stitches. Now insert the left needle from left to right into these 3 stitches and slip them one by one from the left needle, from the right needle to the left needle, like this. So we are back to the work and we still have those 3 extra stitches of I-cord at the side of the work. And that's how it's going to look. Don't turn your work because it's an I-cord, so we always stay at the right side of the work. And then we just repeat these steps. So knit 2 stitches and then make a decrease. Slip 1 stitch knitwise, knit the next stitch and pass the slip stitch over the knit one like this. And return the stitches back to the left needle. And do it over and over again. Knit 2, decrease and return the stitches. Repeat these steps until you only have 3 stitches left on the right needle. So until we only have the I-cord, and that would mean that all stitches of the work are bound off. And here's my last decrease. Last stitch of the work is bound off and I only have 3 stitches left on the right needle. That means I bound off all stitches and now it's time to cut the yarn. So take the scissors and cut the yarn, leave a small tail and then thread it into a wool needle. Just like this. Run the wool needle through the stitches. All the 3 of them. 1, 2, and 3. Take the knitting needle aside and leave that loop over here and insert the wool needle in that loop like this. So we secure the yarn and then pull tight. That's it. We finished off the bind off. And now while we have the tail on the needle, it makes sense to weave it in. Use it any way you like, so I'm going to just run it through several stitches on the wrong side of the work and be done with it. Trim the tail and here we go. The beautiful bind off is right here. Let's look how the swatch looks now. So this bind off is reversible, so it looks the same on both sides. This is the right side and this is the wrong side, and it does look quite nice, right? The second way is new to me. I found it a short while ago when I was researching this bind off, and I'm quite happy I did find it because this way is faster and easier than the way number 1. It is called Max Swanson's Speedy I-cord bind off, and that's how we do it. The first step is the same. We cast on 3 stitches at the beginning of the bind off row, just like this. 1, 2, and 3. Then knit 2 stitches separately through the back loop. In this type of bind off, we're going to be knitting through the back loop all the time. So we insert the right needle into the stitch from right to left like this. So knit 1 stitch and then knit the other one. And then knit 2 stitches together through the back loop. And it is also 1 stitch of the I-cord and 1 stitch of the work. So that's how we bind off the stitches of the work. So we knit them together through the back loop. And then return these 3 stitches back to the left needle, same way as we did in way number 1. So return 1, 2, and then the third one. But this time I go to the front of the right needle because we're going to be knitting through the back loop again, and it makes sense to leave the right needle right there and start knitting. So that will save you a fraction of a second, that adds up, and then you will eventually finish this binding off faster than the way number 1. And then knit 2 together through the back loop and return these stitches back to the left needle, and then repeat over and over again. Knit 2 stitches through the back loop and then knit 2 stitches together through the back loop, and keep going until you have just 3 stitches left on your needles. Okay, I did a silly thing. I didn't leave enough yarn for this swatch, so I'm running out of yarn. See, I have a really tiny tail. So I'm gonna stop here and pretend that we have just 3 stitches left on the needle. So I'm gonna leave this one without binding it off. And then you finish off the end same way as we did when we did the way number 1. So you cut the tail, well, no need for me here, right, because I have it so short. You cut the yarn leaving a small tail, then thread it into a wool needle, run the needle through the stitches and pull it tight to secure. So that's how you finish off. It's the same as the way number 1. Because every stitch is knit through the back loop, the I-cord created by this way looks a bit different than the I-cord we created by the first way. See, here's the difference. These stitches are basically twisted, that's the difference. And these are all knit the classic way, so they look nice and open. But this way is also reversible. It looks nice on both sides. And this difference is so small that only a knitter will see it after examining the edges of your knitted creation, but that's not likely to happen. So I wouldn't worry about a slightly different look of the I-cord at all. Now we know 2 ways to make I-cord bind off, but that's not the limit. Like any I-cord, it could be worked over a different number of stitches. Depending on the project, we can make the I-cord from very thin to quite bulky. Follow the link in the description to see how it looks, and thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next Thursday.